Hey everyone, John Bergsma here from Fisherman's Digest with a lake preview on Lake Mitchell in beautiful Cadillac, Michigan. You know, Lake Mitchell is one of those lakes that I've been fishing in since, the mid-'80s when I was old enough to have my own truck and my own boat and go fishing. It's one of those classic central Michigan, mid-sized multi-species cottage/resort vacation lakes. It is an unbelievable fishery. You know, Lake Mitchell is connected by a waterway to its sister lake, Lake Cadillac, and that makes it kind of a nice lake because if you don't like what you're catching or targeting on Lake Mitchell, you can move over to Cadillac and vice versa. Let's talk just a little bit about the seasonal progressions on Lake Mitchell. You know, Lake Mitchell starts out on fire usually in the spring. It has a very strong panfish population, crappie, bluegill, sunfish, a scattering of perch, but those first three are strong fisheries on Lake Mitchell. You know, Lake Mitchell is about 2,580 surface acres and averages, somewhere around most of the lake, 90% in fact of the lake is less than 11 feet deep. So when you begin to fish Lake Mitchell in the spring, you're going to start in the shallow water bays and on newly emerging weed growth. That is the key for, I'd say, ice out all the way into early June. The weeds are going to progressively on a weekly basis grow just a little bit more, and the main panfish populations are going to hang in those shallow waters, less than 10 feet, close by that newly emergent weed. The way you present your bait to these fish, super simple. Most people use either a slip bobber, jig, plain hook, and a sinker, one of those two rigs, and just live bait. Whether it's a minnow early in the year and progressing to a leaf worm or a piece of a night crawler later in the year, those are all totally effective tactics for the panfish population on Lake Mitchell. Let's talk just a little bit about bass and pike, because bass and pike are a very strong early season species target as well. You know, we normally think about bass fishing and pike fishing as being separate, but on Mitchell they're really not. Whether you're pitching a Cinco worm for a bass or a spinner bait or a buzz bait for pike, you're going to basically target the same areas as the panfish. You're going to be just working the shallow waters out over newly emergent weed growth. The bass and the pike are there feeding on the small panfish as well as some of the mid-sized panfish, and they're almost all intermingled together until sometime in mid-June. Once summer comes, once your vacations start, that's where the weed growth really gets defined on Mitchell, where you have weed walls and first drop-off weed beds, and that's where you can really start to target the bigger game fish. The bigger game fish are fished typically off that first break with sinking with like a jig and a rubber worm, or for northern pike I'm going to say where you're slow rolling a spinnerbait, where you're casting it way out and you're counting it down till maybe it first impacts bottom and you're cranking it in from there. Pike and bass are an absolute staple of this lake off those first couple of breaks all season long. Of course, if you're a dock fisherman, there's plenty of docks because Lake Mitchell is just surrounded by cottages. It's a very fun lake when it comes to that. You will encounter a little bit of boating traffic here midsummer, but there's usually a spot on Mitchell to fish. When it comes to the panfish populations, they stay strong all year long. Like any panfish, you just chase them. You know, you go deeper, panfish are going to suspend like bass and pike off that first and second break, and they're just simply going to run away from the warming water. They're going to go as deep as they possibly can. But again, in Mitchell, it's not that deep, so there's not that far to go, so you should be able to locate them. The fall fishery on Mitchell is really what people should be really aware of as one of those untapped things. The bluegill, the crappie, the bass, and the pike are very accessible in September and October, and they're usually bulked up from the whole summer. You usually get your biggest fish in the fall, and you usually get your best numbers in the fall, especially of big crappie and big bass. If you're an ice fisherman, Lake Mitchell is a fantastic ice fishery as well. Same species, all season long. Listen, This lake is one of those lakes that if you haven't visited recently, you've got to put it on your list to visit again. Lake Mitchell in Cadillac, Michigan is absolutely a year-round fishery that produces tons of fish. Check it out. If you're looking for great information, go ahead and go to the website, visit Cadillac.com, or go ahead and click on the Cadillac tab on Fisherman's Digest website. This is John Bergsma with the Fisherman's Digest. Thanks for listening to this Lake Mitchell preview. You know, when you come to Cadillac, Michigan, sometimes you just got to know exactly where to go to make your stay more enjoyable. You know, my stay in Cadillac always starts at Pilgrim's Village. Steve and Chris have got absolutely the best bait store, little bait store that I've possibly been to in years. I mean, you walk in, you think this thing's the size of your bedroom or your living room. I have never seen so much tackle relevant to the two lakes that they service, Cadillac and Mitchell, is what they have there at Pilgrim's Village. And it's a year-round bait store. They specialize in everything: fall fishing, spring fishing, ice fishing, summer fishing. They're there to take care of and service the customers that come to this little neck of the woods in Cadillac. The cool thing also is if you're looking for a place to stay, Pilgrim's Village has got cottages right there on site surrounding the bait store, which are right on the shores of Lake Mitchell. You know, a stone's throw down the road, you've got Laura at the Days Inn. And if you're looking to just swing in and grab a room, whether you're snowmobiling or just fishing for a day or just gonna have a good weekend out with your wife and your kids, Laura's got a very cool circumstance there, and it's called Adventure Island Waterpark. It's the only water park in the area, and of course it's seasonal. It's rolling in June, July, and August, but it's there to take care of those kids and really give you something fun to do. It's got a great mini golf course, it's got water slides, it's a full-service water park, and the Days Inn is one of the cleanest, most enjoyable places to stay for a hotel that I've been in a long time. You know, you drive right back past Steve at Pilgrim's Village and you're going to end up on the Cadillac side, the Lake Cadillac side, at the Sands Resort. Now, the Sands Resort has been there for decades, servicing vacationers and weekend getaway people with a lakeside resort. They offer a full restaurant with bar. Of course, lake access right there on Lake Cadillac, and they also have rentals available, whether you need a pontoon boat or a kayak or something that you just want to get out on the lake for a day. The Sands Resort will take care of you. Take a little jog across the waterway and hang a left, and you'll get to the newest resort in the Cadillac area, and that is Sunset Shores. Sunset Shores is an almost new condo development right on the water. And the thing that is really cool about this is that it is all new. Mike has been running this resort now for years, and he's got it all set up. He's got a beautiful amenities building right across the street where you can go and you can do a workout. It's kind of like the new modern thing, all stuck on the shorelines of Lake Cadillac. The condos are beautiful, they're multi-storied, and what's also unique about them is that they're available to buy in a timeshare. Whether you buy a few weeks, a month, a quarter, a half a year, or buy the whole darn thing, Sunset Shores is your place for weekend getaways in Cadillac, Michigan.